relative velocity, or faster than you, to put it in the vernacular. Suppose you have four cars going, car A is going 10 meters per second to the right, B is going 20, C is going 30, D is going 40 meters per second to the right. And we're saying to the right is in the positive x direction. Now, the velocity of A relative to B, velocity of A rel B or VAB, means essentially how fast is A going as seen by B. And B is saying, I'm blowing past you, you're going backwards. You're going backwards at 10. So velocity of A relative to B is negative 10 meter per second. And velocity of B relative to A is the other way, because A is saying, from the perspective of A, it's like, okay, yeah, you're gaining on me 10. So velocity of B relative to A is positive 10 meters per second, and always true. Velocity relative to B is negative velocity of B relative to A. That's a general law. Okay, so what are some of the others? C is going 20 meters per second faster than A. So C is going 20 meters per second faster than A. So compared to A, relative to A, C is going 20 meters per second. Velocity of C relative to A is 20 meters per second. You could view it as the velocity of C relative to the ground minus the velocity of A relative to the ground is the velocity of C relative to A. That's another way of saying velocity of C relative to ground is equal to velocity of A relative to ground plus velocity of C relative to A, or putting in like the squeeze form they like. Velocity of car C relative to the ground is velocity of car C relative to A plus velocity of A relative to ground. And that's our other general law. Those are the only two formulas for relative motion. You've got to remember that they're vector equations, so if you're going in 2D, you've got to work this out for each component. Do it for the x and do it for the y. But just a few more examples. The velocity of D relative to A. He's going 40, he's going 10. If you subtract that, that's 30 meters per second. D is going 30 meters per second faster than A. So relative motion is just faster than that, faster than you. The velocity of C relative to B, we can put a slash there or not, is positive 10 meters per second. The velocity of B relative to D is 20 minus 40, negative 20 meters per second. D is going 20 faster than B, so B is going 20 slower than D, if you view them all going in the same direction. So that's one way of understanding relative velocity.